I literally, like, don't overthink it. Like, just,
Okay.
like, the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word writing.
I don't know.
Count to 30 and then say writing.
Writing? I can't do this.
I think that writing is a collection. Alright, I got it now.
A book, written text, alphabetical text. That'd be the first thing that pops into my head.
Writing is something you do when making an Instagram caption.
I think writing is a collection of words that can be put together in both an artistic fashion and also in more of a casual or a professional way, but you could kind of take it on your own track. So it's not just there's one form of writing or one type of writing, but you can kind of make it your own thing, just using the same words, the same letters, and you can just combine it into so many different things.
So I feel like writing is expressing your opinions or attitudes or thoughts about certain topics, whether it be like a political piece of writing, very opinionated, or whether it be something that's written for someone's enjoyment, like a novel or like a children's book or something. So yeah, writing, I guess, is just another form of communication that we really use to communicate.
There also can be more educational purposes, such as writing essays, writing books, scholarly things. I mean, writing helps like share our lives with other people, so it's definitely important.
I think writing is expressing your ideas and getting it on either paper or on something so that someone else can read it and understand what you're talking about.
In a more artistic form, you could write a poem or a short story, a children's book. But if you were doing something more professional, it might be like a resume or a cover letter or even an email to a boss or something. But you can also just use writing in a casual way, sending a text message to someone, writing a get well soon card. There's just so many applications in which writing can be applied.
What is writing?
What is writing? I think that prior to taking the Issues in Writing course this semester, I would have defined writing as the act of communicating ideas traditionally through pen and paper, or as time has evolved, over print or some sort of electronic medium. After discussing metaphysical aspects of the word writing in class, however, I have begun to understand that writing represents so much more than letters on a page. In this project, I aim to analyze not only how different fields of study utilize writing, but also how writing operates off the page. My subjects range from athletes to artists to chemists and to English students in attempts to exploit one single definition of the word writing.
My name is Frankie Petrie, and I'm a chemistry and physics major.
Do you have any control over when you, like, design labs?
For right now, I've only really done one lab that I've designed, but we've been given, like, what the goal is. So, like, you basically, a lot of times, you are given a problem, and you don't know anything. And basically, you have to use what knowledge you know to figure out a problem. Like my freshman year, the second year of gen chemistry, we did a lab. It was like our final, and we had like topics, and then you had to find out a lot of information about this. So you weren't really given anything, and so like mine was finding the amount of like citrus or whatever in an orange.
Okay.
So, but it didn't tell you originally that what you were supposed to find. From like all the other labs that we had done, like you kind of figured out, okay, so this is what we've done in lab. We've done titrations, we've done like solubility, we've done pH, we've done all this stuff. So then from that, you kind of have to work your way into, what do I know? What do I know how to do right now as this level? What can I do? What can I find? And then use that information to then find an answer. And then you analyze it with the computer. And then it comes out and it's like, there's like a spectrum that goes like.
Oh, I know you're talking about like the graph.
Yeah, so it looks kind of crazy. You have no idea what's going on. But like if you analyze them a lot, you can identify which peaks, they're called peaks, which peaks are which functional group. There's two different ways you can identify. One is where the peak is, so there's like different wavelengths that it'll be at.
Okay, gotcha.
And then the other one is how big the peak is. You can be like, okay, so it has to have this and this and this. What do I know that has this and this and this?
Okay. How do you like properly exhibit and communicate your findings from a lab?
This is my lab notebook from last year. But there's like little things.
Okay.
So like you have like your purpose, like what you're trying to find.
Uh-huh.
So like your hypothesis or what you're trying to do. And then you have like what you did. And then from there, you kind of like go into like everything that you found. So like this one I have graphs. Because I'm like, oh, okay, graphs. And like everything that you have. And then from there, you kind of have to do like analyzing. So like this one was one that we like were given. So whatever. So there's like questions that you have to answer that'll help you like kind of do things. And then you kind of like draw a conclusion. So like there's like a little conclusion at the end. It's like, perfect. Okay, so this is what I know, and this is what I found out, and this whole experiment did this. In science, I think it's important that you have a lot of writing skills because I took science writing, so like I had to do. There's lots of different types of writing, and like that's one of the main things in science right now that's kind of wishy-washy because people are arguing over, oh well, should we be biased or should we be just straight factual? Or, how are we supposed to write things?
Okay.
It's kind of been an ongoing argument. Like, should science people, should they be good writers?
Yes.
Should they really be opinionated? Should they just kind of give facts and not really anything else? Like, it's a big thing that's going on. And it's hard to identify which is right, which is wrong. Because there is going to be bias in everything. And it's hard, even in sciences, to get rid of that bias. Let's say I gave you my lab notebook.
Okay.
Could you follow it? Could you do the experiment? Not necessarily you personally, but like someone who knows
with a science background. Exactly.
Who semi knows what they're doing. Like, but could they follow it? Could they recreate the experiment? Because if they can't, then that experiment is worthless. Writing as a process is kind of like thinking through your own what you're thinking basically, and then getting it into words so that other people can understand what you're talking about. So it's like going from your brain into paper or anything else that someone else can understand. So it's kind of like communicating. Well, obviously it is communicating, but like instead of speaking, you're just writing it down or putting it on the internet or whatever, so that more people than just one person can see it.
I define writing as it's more than just a written text. It becomes how people view the world. It's a tool of communication, and writing is a solution to the problem that writing has also created over history in the past. So writing can be used as pictures in public speaking, in communication, in any sort of way, such as technology, and writing has transformed our world and will continue to in the future. The football team itself is its own discourse community, and within our own discourse community, we have writing takes place in the playbook, the game plan for the week, practice schedules, practice times, the mottos and sayings that go around our locker room, what we look forward to. Every single week we get a scouting report that has the writing of the names of the players that we're playing against, and then we have different plays that we have words for, and we also have signals for, which you could consider symbols. So that reflects the Thomas Newkirk symbol weaving and how writing is impacting in that discourse community. So writing has a lot to do with football, and football has a lot to do with writing in its own community.
Hi, my name is Courtney Rice, and I'm a sophomore at Adrian College. And when I think of writing, I think of something that's continually changing. And as technology evolves, so does writing. It's no longer the traditional text in a book, but it's more so changing to a more modern definition, such as photography or YouTube videos or social media, and the definition of writing is continually changing as everything else is changing too.
Besides things that are written, like essays and papers and novels and like something like that, can you think of any other forms of writing that you would consider writing that are not necessarily straightforward from like a text? Like, does that make sense? So, a different form of writing that's not like a written word.
Oh, I mean, language maybe?
Okay.
I mean, kind of. I know a lot of people, not a lot, but like, for example, my boss, G, he speaks in like a written form. Like, he speaks very like slow and like concise, and what he told me how he speaks is like he writes it down in his head, like he imagines himself writing it, and then he speaks it. G works at the production house. He loves filming, documentaries, art. He's a music major here from Adrian College. Really, yeah, just art, music, film, photography, those types of things. To gain knowledge and sort of express further opinions, which is a lot of what writing does, is to like express certain opinions. Granted, they express stories too, but documentaries are a different type of story, I feel like. For a documentary, I was actually fortunate enough to like get to know him pretty well because we worked on a documentary together. So from the very beginning, he decided he wanted to document the synchronized skating team here at Adrian College. And that was a long process. The beginning was a much longer process than I thought it would be, but we had to figure out exactly what we wanted to focus on, and we went from different, like, okay, let's follow like just this group of people, or no, let's generalize it and make it about everyone. So then in the end, he sort of decided to follow certain types of people, giving it more of like a defined relation between the viewer and the person on the screen. So it was very relatable. But as far as the documentary itself, we went through a lot of different ways how to express like how different what we were doing was, the artful, filters or editing and stuff like that too. So it was good. I feel like it's another form of communication, which that's what writing is. Essentially, it's a way to communicate just with pen and paper. Rather, documentary is a way to communicate through using all of those aspects through film.
Writing is the process of using symbols to communicate thoughts.
What kind of symbols do you think this is?
Letters.
Letters? Okay, do you think it could be any different form besides like a written letter? Like, what about when people use like hieroglyphics and stuff like that to communicate?
Those are letters. Aren't they?
I'd also talk about how, or I'm also going to ask her if she thinks like choreographing a program is considered writing. You know what I mean? Because even though it's not tangible, but like it's still like involving different symbols. Like, what do you think of that?
I agree with you. The actual like choreography, it's really interpreting the music. And the music is a form of writing. Especially with a song, like the artist had such a little time frame to convey the story.
Exactly.
So they had to choose the right words to put together to get their point across in the song. It could be notes. It could be tempos. It could be all of that to convey like a mood, just like the storyline pretty much. Choreography also goes along with storytelling because, again, and like with the music, you only have a certain amount of time to convey that story when you're on the ice. And the coaches have to choreograph the program to follow the storyline with all of the different moods of the story. So like you mentioned last year with our mermaid program, in the beginning it was like just like the party, like seeing the ship, and then we got our legs, and then got to the dark part where like Ursula was there, and then at the end like it was a happy ending. So like you have to write that story with the skating and the choreography to convey to the audience and the judges like to make them feel what you're, to make them feel your thoughts, basically.
My name is Bonnie Ray Lynch, and I am the assistant coach of the Adrian College Varsity Synchronized Skating Teams. Personally, I like the on-ice stuff, the physical coaching aspect of it better. That's been my forte. I would say I'm more of a technician, so I like going through the technical aspect of things better, but I wouldn't say that I don't discount how much I like the creative part. I've done it this year, which is the way I've done programs in the past for synchro teams that I worked with. A lot of it is planning ahead of time, going through, listening to the music, going through the elements and the technical part of it, gauging how long each element's going to take, seeing like where in the music, oh, this sounds like this sounds like this, you know, that kind of deal. That goes through with Coach and I. We both go through that, or if we're working with another coach, say Aaron Donovan. So yeah, that all happens off the ice, and then take it on ice, work through steps, work through choreo, see what fits, if it doesn't work, you know, that kind of deal. I would listen to it a couple times and then sit there with a piece of paper with all the elements written out, try different couple orders, or a well choreographed tells a story. Yeah. Or gets a feeling across. Josh Babb, actually, the coach of Skyliners, said something this year, and he's like, as long as you can get a feeling across, you can win. I would definitely relate creative energy and like enthusiasm to how well or poorly a program can be written in the creative aspect. I think you can take skating in any kind of performance sport, so dance, any kind of theater, especially anything along those lines. You can take and say like the same kind of creative writing process, music, singing, any kind of art. You can take all of that really into a creative writing, as long as you're supposed to get some kind of feeling out of it. I think writing is expressing your ideas or point of views within your creative freedom, using persuasion. And I think that's whatever form of writing you're using, whether that's speaking or art or something that is physical like skating. As long as you can get the audience or your reader to understand that, even if they don't agree with it, that's the point of writing.
I hope my disgruntled mid-exam week gives you kind of an idea of the process I've gone through in creating this project. At the start of this project, I would have defined the intangible aspect of writing as ambiguous, as it means many different things to many different people in many different fields and professions. After analyzing the interviews, however, I have found that writing is more commonly expressed as not the physical action of taking a pen to paper, but the action of creating, expressing ideas to an audience through a process in which is constantly evolving through technology. For example, I came across a really interesting article this afternoon. It was all about how a 3D printer managed to create a robotic prosthetic arm that was somehow economically accessible to those who are not in the upper class. And I just think that it's amazing to think about how many different aspects came into play here. For example, initially I found the article on Facebook because someone shared it. So there's an aspect of writing right there, social media. And then we move into the most obvious one, is the writing of the actual article itself. And then also, as we defined at the beginning, many people see printing as a form of writing. So I just think it's incredible that the prosthetic arm is not necessarily expressing an idea, but it's almost allowing someone to function in society, thus giving them a doorway and an opportunity to become a part of a society that is constantly revolving around the communication of ideas. Something else that I found was interesting from the interviews was the repetitive aspect of storytelling and also the process of a sponsor-like collaborative form of multimodal writing. The most obvious example I can give from my project was when Frankie discussed the graphs in her lab report. The only way for these graphs and her other findings to be relevant in the field of physics and chemistry was for other scientists to be able to take her conclusions and from her findings that she had to write out, draw the same conclusions and be able to conduct the same same results, so then her findings would be relevant. The same thing goes for Erica in making the documentary with her boss. Same thing goes with Kyle discussing plays with a football team, and same goes with choreographing a synchronized skating program. Across all these different regions, a collaborative multimodal piece of writing is required to effectively express an idea or tell a story. I think the most interesting thing that has come out of this project is that my process in creating this assignment was almost parallel to my findings in the interview. From reading the assignment to our textbook, to planning the project in my notebook, to writing down the questions that I wanted to ask my participants, to recording the responses and analyzing them, and then in creating this project, I figured out what writing was while exhibiting all these different forms of writing. So, without further ado, after analyzing the different interviews and after spending so much time on this project, I've decided to temporarily, as it is an evolving field, I've decided to temporarily define writing as the evolving process of creating and elaborating across different mediums in order to persuasively and express ideas to an audience. My name is Megan Sauer, and I hope that in watching this documentary, you've been able to answer the question, what is writing? Thank you for watching.